This is just getting out of hand as the Phoenix Suns have been involved in a new trade proposal featuring a three-team deal. And we're going to get into the teams involved, the players involved, how this has major implications on the Phoenix Suns going forward as well. Take a look at tomorrow's game against the Atlanta Hawks on this very long Phoenix Suns road trip. What's going on, guys? The Phoenix Suns are rolling right now on a 3-game win streak going up against the Trae Youngless Atlanta Hawks tomorrow night. Jaylen Green made his debut against the Philadelphia 76ers coming off the bench. We'll talk about it as well. A lot of touch points in today's videos, guys. We're going to talk about the Atlanta Hawks game, of course, and talking about Jaylen Green's return, but as well as this wild new trade report that involves some very, very questionable players and some very questionable departures for the Phoenix Suns in this very, very weird trade proposal that we will get into. But before we get into all of this news today, we're going to take a quick word from our sponsor. Before we get into all the news today, this video is brought to you by Kalshi. When you download Kalshi using the link below and enter code DIGESTNBA, you'll get $20 when you trade your first $100. Kalshi is the largest prediction market in the US. And on their platform, you can trade yes or no on real-life events, sports, elections, news, and pretty much everything. And whether you're in California, Arizona, or anywhere else across the country, Kalshi is live in all 50 states. And for us sports fans, especially here in Phoenix, you can trade on game outcomes, playoff chances, or player performances, all on a regulated market where you can cash out at any time. If you take a look at Kalshi's website right now, they currently have the Suns to win 48 games this season, which would hopefully qualify them for the playoffs, which Kalshi has them at a 75% chance at qualifying for the postseason. Now, maybe they're not incorporating a possible trade that the Suns could make at the February deadline, or maybe they're not looking at the Suns, who are currently sitting at the 7th seed, not totally qualifying for the playoff spot, as the 7th to 10 seeds have to compete in the play-in tournament. But guys, overall, Kalshi is a genuinely smarter way to use your sports or news knowledge, and you can close positions whenever you want. So make sure to download Kalshi with the link in the description, and don't forget to use code DIGESTNBA to get your $20 bonus. And thank you once again to Kalshi for sponsoring this video. Folks, getting into this trade report, Bleacher Report, who are no stranger to having their trade proposals all around the air as we're getting closer to the NBA trade deadline out there in February. We're at that halfway point in the season, just before All-Star break, where everyone's going to get their trade proposals in, trying to make as many moves as they can to try and, of course, trade draft picks, get as much draft capital as they can, or maybe get a contending piece to help them move forward in the playoffs. But Bleacher Report released an article for the Phoenix Suns and gave their reasoning to it, and of course, we'll go over what their reasoning is for this trade, but as well, I'll give my take, and I want to get your guys' opinion in the comments below as well about if you think this transaction would work for the Phoenix Suns or if it wouldn't. But taking a look at exactly what the trade offer is, they have the Golden State Warriors receiving forward DeAndre Hunter. The Phoenix Suns are receiving Jonathan Kuminga, who of course is no stranger to being mentioned in Phoenix Suns trade talks. Of course, they also include Trace Jackson Davis, the young center on the Golden State Warriors, and the Cleveland Cavaliers receive forward Royce O'Neal, Ryan Dunn, and center Nick Richards. And right off the bat, I already don't like this trade, guys, because we're already giving up two key pieces right there in Royce O'Neal and Ryan Dunn. We know that Nick Richards is obviously the most expendable player on this Suns team right now. It's already been made public in former reports that the Phoenix Suns are making him available for trade. Brian Gregory and Jordan Out have obviously agreed that Nick Richards is not someone that fits into this system right now. They have a lot of center depth. They have Kaman Malawach. They're fine keeping the development of their centers, their young centers. Guys like Mark Williams, of course, who has been the starting center for the Phoenix Suns all this year and has done a great job being an anchor in the paint, being a great offensive rebounder and rim protector, also a great finisher at the rim, being one of the most assisted players by Devin Booker this year. So obviously it's known that they don't need Nick Richards anymore, but getting rid of guys like Royce O'Neal and Ryan Dunn, I already don't like. I see someone like DeAndre Hunter up there, and DeAndre Hunter is kind of a more polished version of Ryan Dunn. And if we were getting him in return, I might think about it, but I don't want to give up on Ryan Dunn just yet. I think he's too young. He's only his second year in the NBA right now, and I don't think we've seen enough out of him yet to trade him yet. I think that he's still really, really raw as a prospect. I still think he needs a lot more playing time to fit in to this system and really find his role and find out what he's good at and what he needs to work on. And when you look at the return for the Phoenix Suns, of course, they do get two young players themselves in Trace Jackson Davis and Jonathan Kuminga. So you're adding to your center depth there. You're also getting a very, very young and well, I don't want to say proven prospect in Jonathan Kuminga. I can't even really call him a prospect anymore. He's been in the NBA for a long time now, but obviously he was a lottery pick. He was very, very highly touted coming into the draft, and there's always been that drama with the Golden State Warriors, Steve Kerr and Jonathan Kuminga, and there's always been kind of a drama with him about not really being able to develop his young players now that they've had such that big core for such a long time with Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson. And obviously Jonathan Kuminga wants a chance to prove himself and make his way over to Phoenix. And I do think that he could thrive in this system, but I just don't think I'm ready to give up on someone like Ryan Dunn yet, especially not Royce O'Neal, one of the best three-point shooters on this team right now. One of the reasons why they're one of the Phoenix Suns are one of the best three-point shooting teams in the NBA. But getting into the reasoning exactly why Bleacher Report thinks this is a good trade, they went on to say that the Phoenix Suns reportedly make the most lucrative push to try and pull off a sign and trade for Kuminga last summer with a proposal of up to $90 million over 4 years, according to ESPN Shams Charania. And then at 24-16 now, the Suns have mostly exceeded expectations and could use Kuminga as a starter at forward alongside Dillon Brooks before he fell out of favor again with Golden State Warriors head coach Steve Kerr. Kuminga was averaging 14.1 points, 7 rebounds, and 3.1 assists on 45% shooting overall in his 13 starts. And then they continue on to say that with so many future picks already going out, the Suns need to build a team that can win now and for years to come. Players like Devin Booker and Brooks allow Phoenix to compete today, while 23-year-olds such as Jaylen Green and Jonathan Kuminga offer some real upside over the next decade. New head coach Jordan Ott is quickly becoming a master of player development, helping Evan Mobley break out with the Cleveland Cavaliers last season and seeing career years from players like Brooks, Grayson Allen, Mark Williams, and Colin Gillespie now. And the Suns are finally a stable enough organization to take on a talent like Kuminga and put him in a position to flourish, something we wouldn't have said a year ago. And I obviously agree with most of what they're saying here, but I just don't think that the Suns need to move on from someone like Ryan Dunn or Royce O'Neal right now. I think they bring a lot of value to this team. Overall, I just don't think the Suns should make any trade at all because of their chemistry right now. They just work so well together. Everybody seems to have some mental connection between each other when they're on the court. It's like they know what we're going to do, how they're going to move. They know where they're going to shoot. They know where they're going to be on the court. And that's something I also want to talk about with Jaylen Green with his the very few games that he's played so far. It seems like he's had such an improved IQ in his playing time now. It seems like Jordan Ott has really made an impression on him, especially in his playmaking and passing game, because usually in Houston when Jaylen Green would drive to the rim, he's he would just kind of be a trigger finger. He'd probably take a very inherent layup. He'd probably take it when he should have passed it out, not take the best shots, but he's really improved in that aspect of his game, taking smarter shots and of course making the right reads when he's driving to the rim, dumping it off to the passer or kicking it out beyond the three-point line. So it's really been interesting to see his development as a player in this Phoenix Suns system. And to just transition over to Jaylen Green, we're going to talk about next. Of course, he did make his debut against the Philadelphia 76ers. I was a little surprised to see that he wasn't starting because in earlier articles and interviews with Jordan Ott, he did mention that he was going to start him in his debut, but they ended up not doing that. They ended up putting him on a little minutes restriction there, just playing 20 minutes in his first game since November. And, of course, they want to do that to be careful, not to strain anything, to make sure his conditioning's good. They don't want to rush him back, make sure that hamstring's still good and he's not going to tweak it in any kind of way. Of course, he did have not a great game. He shot 36% from the field, but of course, he's just trying to find his legs there still. I still think he played a great game, put up 12 points, 2 rebounds, made all of his free throws, went 2 for 4 from the three-point line, and he was plus 10 on the court. So he obviously made a great impact overall in that Sixers game. That was a little touchy here and there. Didn't have the best start in that first quarter, going 0 for 9 at their first 9 shots, but obviously they did track back and ended up getting the dub, which is the most important part. And before we wrap up for the video today, guys, I just want to talk a little bit about the Phoenix Suns, the Atlanta Hawks in tomorrow's game. The Hawks are a very beatable team, folks, which is quite surprising because on paper, they have such a talented team and a talented roster. I mean, you have guys like Jalen Johnson and Dyson Daniels, who, of course, has made a huge jump as a defender and an offensive player, really, in his playmaking ability. Of course, he is a very, very bad three-point shooter. I mean, to his credit, he doesn't shoot a lot of them, but he has just not looked comfortable in his three-point shooting. I mean, that team has a lot of floor spacers in their own right. Onyeka Okongwu has become an excellent three-point shooter in his own right, as well as Kristaps Porzingis, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker's breaking out. He's averaging 20 points per game. But of course, the main guy you got to worry about on that team is Jalen Johnson, who's almost averaging a triple-double. But this team has their woes. I believe it's honestly to their coaching and in the way they schemed out playing offensively and defensively. I think there's a lot of holes in their game, and I think Jordan Knott is going to be able to really pick those apart, pick those out, and I think that'll be an easy win tomorrow. Their first matchup of the year did end up going into overtime, and that was a very, very chippy game. But I do have the Suns with the edge tomorrow. But we'll talk a little bit more about that in tomorrow's video when we do a real game preview and all the injury reports are out, and we'll know who's going to be playing and who's not going to be, of course, because that's going to have a huge aspect and plays a huge factor into the game. But that's going to do it for today's video, guys. And as always, go Suns.